Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? All for science. It's a jungle out here. I'd been warned. Predators and prey of every size and description around every corner. Anywhere can be breathtakingly beautiful and equally breathtakingly deadly. Stay alert to stay alive. Even with safeguards in place, I find myself in terrifying peril. Time's running out. The end is near. I fear no help is in the offering. I am on my own. No hope left. It's getting more and more difficult to breathe. Humidity so thick, it's like sucking a wet sponge. But I can't give up. Yet. I see my short life flashing before me. Might pass out soon. How can this be happening? Won a grant to study. Rainforest in Amazon. All for science. Far back as I can, remember I had a love for plants, instilled by my mother. Rest her soul. She raised exotic plants. So I wanted to emulate her, made it into a great university. Oh, that hurt. Can't think straight. Getting lightheaded. Most of my history will be found in my journals. When did I last make an entry? Right. When I arrived. Was going to add more tonight. Oh, well, best laid plans. He has me pinned right where he wants me, trembling in fear. Grip tightens. Oh, hope Adam knows I really did love him. Wanted to be his wife, but so ironic when I think about it now. How we were saving ourselves for marriage. Mutually agreed. The right thing to do with our bodies. Not give in to temptation and all that. Yeah, we made it to some bases, but overall, still a virgin. At 23, could have gotten married long ago. But we wanted our master degrees first. I tried to scream at first. Takes too much breath. Now, look at my body. I tried so hard. Stay in shape. Stay healthy. Exercise. Eat right. There'll be nothing left. A pith helmet and designer cargo pants, if that. Ow. Think that was a rib. That cracked. Snap, crackle, pop. If lung punctured, maybe put me out of misery. sooner. Yes, yes. I should pray for that. Make this end, please. Oh, hurts so much. Get it over with. Already. Oh, must confess all my sins and beg forgiveness. Please forgive me for not serving you and my fellow man better. Thank you for saving grace. Remember me in your kingdom, please. So X Crook Ating. Think pleasant thoughts. Night first met Adam. Halloween party, college, junior year. Friend convinced me wear outlandish costume. A pleathery sleeping bag looking wrap that looked like a giant anaconda swallowing me whole. Ironic, right? Lower jaw pushed up my D-cup cleavage to my neck. Only my arms and head stuck out. Above the form-hugging, diamond-studded snakeskin created quite the shapely bulge 40 and 26-36. The upper jaw looked like a hoodie coming over my head. Adam and every other straight male took notice, but Adam's field of study is snakes. They're his passion, more so than me, I fear. He seemed jealous of my trip here. I only look at plants. He would have so many snakes to admire snakes. Ah, believe. He would classify this charmer as a reticulated python. He has me wrapped in multiple coils, intending to make me his meal. I'm afraid, enjoying squeezing every last breath out of me until I pass out or die, making me easier to devour whole without a struggle. More bones he can break will make me slide down so much easier. It won't be long now, being crushed like a tin can. Everything hurts, breaths getting shallower, all alone on a hike, not far from camp. Stopped to examine flora. He dropped out of canopy above. Even if I looked up, he would resemble dripping vines. Was he stalking me? Or I happened to stumble into his domain? Easy prey, fast delivery, knife strapped to my thigh. Once he had me in his grip. He moved so fast, I didn't stand a chance. Maybe butt dial help? Phone in my back pocket. Reached for it. Now, arms pinned behind me. Chest thrust out between coils. Pretty picture, no doubt. Oh, Try not to imagine the coming horror. Maws above me, already drooling, smells putrid. I can hear his forked tongue testing, tapping my pith helmet. It deflects saliva away from my face for now. It's strapped on. If he tries to dislodge it, my head may be ripped off too. Less misery for me. Please let this end. With each exhale, he takes up the space, crushing me more, making impossible to get air. Oh, the pain. Agonizing pain. Adam once told me. This guy is one of most efficient killers in world. Only the best. For me. Oh, don't laugh. Takes too much breath. He's getting more efficient. Once I pass out, he'll easily swallow me whole. Connective tissue allows jaws to open wide. He'll walk them over my head and face. Hope he chokes on helmet. Backward pointing fangs prevent me from escaping if I'm still alive. Sure, as if once prey in throat. Strong muscular contractions work mass down through long esophagus into juicy, thick stomach, all prepared for heavy task of digestion. May slow him down several days. My body quivering in terror. Carnivorous, 100%. No flora for him. Can swallow prey much larger, thicker than himself. He'll bathe it in lots of slimy, acidic juices and digest everything except hair and nails, things with keratin. Those will be expelled as pellets. Wonder about cargo pants and hiking boots. Someone someday find pile of designer scat? I'm such a comedian sometimes. Maybe I'll taste funny, so he'll spit me out. Don't wanna be snake food. Oh. Skalda, is someone over there? Behind those ferns? Help me, please. Fading fast. Out of time. Hello, Eve, my love. Imagine finding you here, hanging out with a serpent. You're turning a bit purple. Oh, Adam. Thank goodness. Save me. Can't breathe. He's breaking every bone. The pain is unbearable. Destroy this monster. Let me beat him with this stick. Let go of her, you horrible purple people eater. Sorry, not working, doll. Can't say I didn't try. Besides, how could I possibly forgive myself for destroying such a magnificent specimen? He's only doing what comes naturally. You look like a piece of meat to him. Can't blame him. He's made a delectable selection. Just look at the way he is working you over. Kind of like the way you twisted everything around in your journal I found back home when I was watering your plants. You were ready to dump me after all our dreams and plans, simply because I gave in to temptation and bedded that perky waitress. She didn't deny me any of her body, unlike you. Oh, can't touch this. Now who is touching you everywhere? And you expect me to save you? Adam, please, can't last much longer. The end is near. Tell you what, sweetheart. How about I make you a movie star? You look hotter than I have ever seen you, all coiled up, cozy-like, with that hungry python. Your boobs are sticking out between the coils and look good enough to eat. Oh, that is his plan, all right. Such a tasty morsel for him. I'm gonna film it all in the name of research. The eating and mating habits of the reticulated python. My favorite subject. It will pay for this nice little vacation I granted myself. But he'll get a good portion of that too. Let me help him out by taking off that ridiculous hat and those heavy boots. Maybe I can slip off those long pants as you are slipping down the hatch. Don't want to be too hard on his delicate system. Hard enough swallowing a prickly prude. Smile pretty for the camera. Look like you are enjoying this once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's all for science. There you go now. You'll make a sexy, shapely bulge in his belly, my dear. You'll stay alive for a few hours. Be sure to thrash around in all the sweet, smelling bile. He'll like that. Gives him satisfaction. And it'll speed up the digestion, so the burning won't last as long. I did mention it's gonna burn a bit, didn't I? Have fun. The end of Eve as we knew her. Epilogue. Adam. I'm funning with you folks. Of course. I waited a couple of hours, then showed up at her camp where they were missing poor Eve. I led a search party, and we happened upon this large, long, legless lizard, lounging languidly along a sunny ledge with a bulging bobble about the belly. In the name of science, we opened it up and found a slime-covered beet red, boiling mad, but still beautiful, busty, blonde botanist. She never would marry me, but she made a fortune telling her tale of what it felt like to be swallowed whole. And my secret porn video went viral. All for science, you understand. Doppel by Sean Glenn. Douglas Packard. Why is it that when we stare into terror, we often stare into our own eyes? I think it's the way we're wired. It's our thoughts. We have access to them, but nobody else. And just as it is impossible for foreign hands to unscrew our craniums and peer inside, so too do the minds of others remain unknowable to us. We're alarmed at minds different from our own. We fear those that could be similar. Because we don't have to imagine. We know the demons that surge even through normal brains, bat wings and saber fangs next to the little voice that says we should give Grandma a call and then rake the leaves. There's a man in the upper right-hand corner of the mirror. His eyes are my own. Doom. It shudders through me. But how could that be? Russet leaves swirl down from above. They dance in the copper mid-autumn light. It's Saturday at the farmer's market. Children dashing gleefully through cool grass. Fathers in pursuit. Toddlers clamoring at their mothers for another bite of sugary muffin. Cream cheese frosting from the last one, dolloped on the tip of their nose. Peruvian coffee and cheddar frittatas in the air. Fall bounty everywhere. Squash and sweet potatoes and kale, carrots, beets, and pumpkins. So why does it feel like eternity on the chopping block? And where did my doppel go? He was just there, with me in the mirror. But now he's gone, like a shadow that's changed in the sun. Like a memory I'm not sure is real. I put the sunglasses back on the rack. Knick-knacky things to pick up and try on, but never to buy. The woman behind the booth sighs. More DNA on her merchandise. No money in her pocket. He's stopped to order a London fog. He tips big, rolls a $10 bill into a thin pipe before sliding it into the glass jar while the barista works. There are brownie sample bites next to the register, and he tries one. A young mom clips the heel of his boot accidentally with her stroller and apologizes profusely. Silver smile. It's no problem at all, he assures her. And what's her name? He asks, pointing to the interior of the carriage. Katie, she says, and blushes a little too red for her husband's liking. They hurry off, but she glances back, and that will certainly become an argument in the car. Thank you, darling. He collects the drink from the countertop and sips. He stuffs a folded-up napkin in his back pocket and heads for the parking lot. A leather bag, the color of tobacco, in his left hand. He's got on a tanned wax canvas jacket and denim trousers, black boots, buffed, something nice to preen in, and a hat, beaver pelt, or rabbit fur, I'm not sure. A modern cowboy that is the doppel of me. Then something surprising happens. My feet begin to move towards the parking lot after my doppel. For what? No reason I can grasp. Nothing logical that would not fall outside the purview of lunacy. Who can justify following anyone without their knowing? That's stalking. And stalking, by its nature, belongs to the realm of the unwell, or the paranoid, or psychotic. But who could possibly come across their twin and let them go as easily as a penny on the pavement? Nobody. I know, because my doppel is in front of me, and my feet are moving, and there is nothing I can do to stop them. My conscience is shrieking, "Stop. Right now. Stop. Before it's too late." It's already too late. I can't stop. He pops the door of a black Chrysler wagon. He tosses the leather bag into the back seat and gets in. The engine roars to life, and he peels out of the lot. The sun glints in his driver's side mirror as he goes. I jog to my Forester and jam the key in the door. I jump in and fumble with the stick shift, spilling the stale coffee parked in the middle console cup holder. It joins the existing sludge, coffee and tea, and melted candies oozed from the wrappers that have fused the loose change into a single chunk. I roll the window down and turn the engine on. I rip out of the lot and discard the coffee that remains. He's a slick maneuver. In and out of traffic he weaves. Controlled, measured. Me after him, choppy and jagged, nearly clipping a sedan, barreling back into the same lane to avoid an F-150 blaring its horn. Possessed. A haunting tune on the radio, one I've never heard. Early this morning, when you knocked on my door, and I said, "Hello, Satan. I believe it is time to go." The Chrysler whips through the intersection. He flies under the traffic light, and it ticks yellow. My hands tighten on the wheel, knuckles whitened to chalk, my foot lead, pulverizing the accelerator. Me and the devil, walking side by side. Me and the devil, walking side by side. Who am I chasing? Him. Who is he? Me. Not me. He looks like me, but he is not me, and I am me, and I'm chasing him. My thoughts are whipping. Why can't I let him go? The sun has dipped below the hill. A chill creeps across the windshield. Darkness thickens. I give the man more distance in these residential blocks, so he remains unaware of me. His speed slows, and he crawls along a few more yards before halting entirely. The interior lights extinguish. I kill my engine at the stop sign a block away, scared to venture too close. A few minutes pass. Then the driver's side door opens, and he emerges. He gathers the leather bag and heads into the house, a bungalow with a converted attic that peeks out from a window above the entrance. When I was 7 years old, I saw a boy beaten so bad he had to be induced into a coma. My mother let me walk home from school as long as I called her at work, exactly at 3:30, to let her know I was home. Walking a few blocks in your own neighborhood wasn't considered negligence back then. There was an alleyway hidden from the road that abutted an abandoned property and an empty lot overgrown with weeds. My mother told me to avoid it, but I was a kid, and it was faster, So what was the harm? 4 boys encircled him, shoving him back and forth like a rag doll. They were older than me, maybe 13 or 14. The boy being terrorized was half their size and already roughed up quite a bit. He had a gash in his lip and a dark spot on his cheek that would certainly be a bruise tomorrow. A rip in his arm sleeve. They pushed and taunted, slapped and cackled. I hid behind the dumpster and cowered, unable to help, scared to retreat since they might see me. What happened next is seared into the unforgettable part of my brain. The chief Neanderthal raised a rock over his head. A rock, not a stone. Something the size of a softball. He laughed as he brought it down on the back of the boy's skull. A sickening thud. The boy crumpled in a cloud of dirt. He didn't move. "What the fuck was that, you idiot?" The Neanderthal's friend raved and hit him in the chest. "You killed him!" The ogre reduced to a minnow. "I didn't mean to. No, no, he's not dead. I didn't hit him that hard. Brett, check if he's breathing." His eyes wide, as if peering into the future of his own conviction, his own juvenile sentence, family shame, and pariah label. The end of his life in front of him. Brett hovered over and listened. "He's breathing. Barely." The boy's chest was rising and falling a quarter of an inch. There was a small pool of blood in the dirt. "Let's get out of here." The boy who hit the Neanderthal gathered his bicycle. "Go home. All of you. Don't tell anyone anything." The boys fled, one after the other. When I was sure they'd gone, I slunk from the dumpster and tiptoed to the boy on the ground. He was breathing, barely. The back of his head was a bloody pulp. He was wearing a dress. That memory floods over me when I am frightened. And I am frightened because after a minute of hemming and hawing and asking for Christ's sakes, what the hell am I doing here? And putting the key in the ignition and taking it out and putting it back in again. A van has pulled around the corner and parked. 2 men emerge, one in a Loden raincoat, the other in a black wool sweater. They open the sliding door of the van and rifle through a black duffel bag. They close the bag up, slide the door shut, and head for the house. Before the man with the raincoat can conceal, I see it. I'm sure it's a pistol. 2 taps on the front door. They ring the doorbell. No answer. The man in the raincoat cracks it open. He slips his foot in and draws his weapon from his hip, slick so as to be concealed from the street. Then the 2 disappear. I am by myself, stunned. My brain is racing. What do I do? Who do I call? Should I just start laying on the horn? My nerves are boiling inside of me, my mind clouding over. Call the police? Tell them what? That I stalked a stranger I thought was my doppel to a place I've never been, and there are 2 armed men after him, in whose house I don't know? 5 minutes zoom by. I have to do something. I don't move. A gun barrel on my temple. Cold, freezing. My toes tingle beneath me. Weight and feeling gone away. One click, and I'm gone. I'm gonna get in. Shut the engine off. Slide over. Don't make a sound. I do as I'm told. I kill the engine and climb over the stick shift. He sits down and closes the door. My doppel stares into my eyes. You with them? There's no saliva in my mouth. It's all evaporated. It comes out hoarse, quiet. I don't know who they are. I don't know who you are. His face stern. But you did follow me here. I nod. Yes. Why? My fingertips are itchy. The barrel is pointed at my heart because you look just like me. It sounds preposterous. Whatever I've stumbled upon, this is fate. A moth to a flame, and me to my doppel. Caught up in something I don't know, don't understand, and couldn't have foreseen. Paying the price for a bill that is not my own. I can see myself crushed into the dirt. Now I'm wearing the dress, and they've scribbled epithets on my forehead and forearms. The usual offenders. And and a crude penis on my cheek, angled downwards towards my busted lip. I touch my fingertips to the back of my skull. Cherry red. I believe you. My lips trembling. What? I ask. I don't know what else to say. I believe you, that you're not with them. He's silent for a moment, and then lowers the weapon. We do look exactly alike. A Leaf helicopters onto the windshield. Who are they? Tsk. He sucks his teeth. You seen that leather bag I'm totin'? I nod. Yeah. He looks me back in the eye. Well, son, what if I was to tell you that bag contained a lot of money? Would that start to fill the picture in a bit? A furrowed brow and fire in his gaze. I nod again. Needless to say, people don't normally tote bags of cash for any good reason. There's usually extracurriculars that go on to acquire such a thing, ain't there? Well, I don't wish to tell you much about how I came to be in possession of that bag, but I will say that nobody got hurt, and the people we took it from got enough bags to fill up a rail car. You understand what I'm saying? Nodding is my new language. I have no idea what this doppel is saying. No idea why there is a cowboy version of myself explaining the morality of thievery. He grunts and lights a cigarette. Well, there is a mistruth in there. Someone did get hurt. Used to be 4 of us that did this work. But Maggie, she caught a bullet we just couldn't caulk. Gushed and gushed and gushed, and then, finally, her face just went white. Gone. Like that. He snaps his fingers like catching a bullet is a period at the end of the sentence. Maggie had herself a daughter. paralyzed from the waist down in an accident when she was a youngin'. Needed a lot of care, that girl. That's why Maggie did what she did, and she was good at it. That's why she deserved her share. That's why, now she's gone, her daughter deserves what her mama earned. The doppel drags on the cigarette. The car is an ozone of tar. He rolls down the window and ashes the butt. My partners, they disagreed. He nods to the house. They're your partners? Were? Things didn't end well between us. As you can see, the lights in the house have been turned down. They're waiting. I need something from you, kid. This time, I don't nod. I need you to sneak through the back, peek in, and let me know where they are. There's a path through the neighbor's backyard that will conceal you. Leads all the way to the cellar doors, hidden by the brush. It's unlocked. They'd have no reason to be in the basement. They're waiting to ambush me upstairs. Slide in, text me where they are, then get out of there. He rips the cigarette that is now a fleck in his fingers. I'll do the rest. No. Fuck no. No way. I say these things, and then I lunge for the door. Fuck the car. Escape. Run. Figure it out later. Get to safety. Flee from this doppel. Now the boy that was attacked is in a new dress, but this dress is a hospital gown, and there's gauze over his face and head left over from surgery. The green line of the heart monitor blips meekly. I can't say no. This man has my face, and I trust him. He's magnetic. I nod. I reach for the handle, and the doppel brushes my shoulder. Take this, just in case. It's a revolver with a walnut grip. My feet move me. Around the block, and then through the neighbor's yard. Hugging the fence line, and then dashing to the cellar doors. I duck in and pull the lever closed. Quiet. So quiet. Breaths now could be catastrophic. My heart pulses in my esophagus, palms with lakes pooling in them. I tiptoe to the stairs and then inch my way up, one by one. No creaks, no breaths. I edge the cellar door open, my eye in the narrow slit, hidden by the darkness. One at the kitchen table, the other in a living room chair, facing the entrance. There's something wrong. Both of their heads are jerked upwards, twisted grotesquely to the ceiling. If I'm wrong, then I'm a dead man. But I'm not wrong. They are the dead men. I push the door open, and there is no rush to kill me. No commotion at all. I'm too afraid to flip the lights. I sneak over and immediately collapse to my knees, dry heaving. I force myself to keep the bile down, eyes watering like faucets. Twin crescents carved from ear to ear, the both of them. Exposed vertebrae, horror-filled eyes, like they'd seen the devil, nothing less. The devil. The front door explodes open, and officers pour in. There are red and blue flashing lights in my periphery. Melted candles of color blurring my vision from the smoke bombs. Get on the fucking ground, now! Get down or you're dead! The boy that was attacked avoided brain death, but he lived with disability all his life. I never told my parents what I saw. I didn't tell anyone. I was too scared. On a lonely highway in the moonlight, the doppel turns the radio knob. See? Don't see why. People dog me around. It must be that old evil spirit, so deep down in your ground. He turns the volume up, all the way up. Into the night, he shouts, I'm a dark mirror hound, every last drop. I enter Red Square from the south side. It's late. There's no one else around. My footfalls echo across the bricks. Then I spot him, a slender figure beneath one of the cherry trees outside Drake Hall. Silvery white hair pulled back in a ponytail. Black gloves, combat boots, a wool trench coat, the preferred attire of all psychopaths. I reach into my purse. In the next instant, he is standing right beside me. Excuse me, miss. I pepper spray him in the face. He takes it stoically, with little more than a wince. I empty the entire can, but he just stands there, squinching, like it's nothing but tepid water. Then he wipes his obsidian eyes clean with his gloved fingertips. I suppose I deserve that. I forget how fast we seem to you. Forgive me. I mean no harm. I will scream. You're Anika Chande, yes? From the physics department? Doctor, I say by reflex, sounding breathless. Who are you? Or what? Dr. Chande, forgive me, he repeats, extending a hand. My name is Sasha Volkov. I've read your books and all the papers you've published. Your work with photons is nothing short of brilliant. No pun intended. Thank you, I say flatly. I don't believe in auras, but if I did, his would be ice cold. I decline his handshake. I don't want my blood to crystallize in my veins. I'm hoping you will help me, he continues. You are perhaps the only one who can. I don't think so. His pencil-thin eyebrows pin together. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. You don't warp 15 yards across a plaza in the blink of an eye, demonstrate a superhuman immunity to capsaicin, and then ask for a favor. I see you're sporting a nice pair of fangs as well. That's very cute. Am I being punked? No, ma'am. He pulls a handkerchief out of his coat and mops his face with it. Although I have been told I look like Slavic Ashton Kutcher, I'm calling the campus police. Please, hear me out. Look, I'll show you. He walks into a beam of moonlight and vanishes. Not entirely. His outfit is still visible, but there's no one inside it. I start to deliver on my promise to scream, but the sound catches in my throat. The ludicrousness of the sight, the sheer improbability. I must be suffering a psychotic break from the stress of finals, or the sushi I had for lunch is causing hallucinations, makes me scoff and start laughing instead. Very impressive. Bravo. You see, the trench coat says, gloves raised in a gesture of helplessness. Somewhere along the way, our species developed this ability or disability, depending on your point of view, to disappear under direct light. That's why we're nocturnal. You might assume this gives us a natural predatory advantage, but it's actually incredibly frustrating. Imagine trying to eat a sandwich without being able to see your hands, and it's painful. The stronger the light, the more intense the discomfort. Is that why you live in Seattle? I snort. Because the sun is never out? Yes, exactly. Makes sense. I have a hunch. There may be some sort of interference at the quantum level between our body's atoms and solar photons. That's why we have no reflection and can't be captured on film. But the human mind can't abide the irrationality, so by rote, it forms a composite to make us appear whole. He returns to the shadows and rematerializes. A fancy illusion, just smoke and mirrors. Nothing to see here. No need for an anchor to drop into my stomach, or the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up. Nature had to find some way of keeping us in check, or we would have rendered you extinct by now. What do you want? I ask, wishing my voice didn't make me sound so fragile, so human. There was an article about you in the school newsletter recently. Thanks to a generous donation from someone who wished to remain anonymous, your lab was able to get a new quantum camera and an entangled photon detector. Volkov grins, his cobra-like fangs glistening even in the dark. I am that mysterious benefactor, and I want you to take my picture. Please stop messing with me. This really isn't funny at all. I'm quite serious, actually. We use simple objects for quantum imaging, like an emblem made out of gold and silicon. Not living beings. Well, according to your lore, I'm not really alive. Isn't that right? I grip the strap of my purse, certain at any moment I'm going to wake up in a puddle of my own drool at my desk, having fallen into a fever dream. Undead beings, then. The fact remains. You injure me, Doctor. I am not a zombie or a virus. My physiology is nearly identical to yours, with a few notable differences, of course. His stare is beyond unsettling. I cast my gaze towards the parking lot and keep it there in case he's trying to hypnotize me. It's very late. I need to be getting home to my family. He pretends not to hear me and carries on. I understand there may be challenges. That's why I'm asking you. You're the only one who can rise to the task. Mr. Volkov, whomever or whatever you are, I suggest you learn to take no for an answer. The first time, not the second or third or fourth. I stride away, making sure to keep my head held high, projecting indifference. "Oh, come now," he says, voice dropping to an impossibly low pitch. "I could just compel you to do it, but I'd rather you choose. This is an exciting opportunity for us both." My legs grow heavy. Against my will? How is he doing that? I stop in my tracks, my heartbeat rising rapidly into my throat. A mysterious gravity pulls me back in his direction, like my subconscious has staged a coup. I swallow against the growing certainty that this is actually happening. Only a monster would fail to see the false dichotomy of his proposal. All right then. Fine. In the lab, I keep the overhead lights off. The light from the monitors will have to suffice. As soon as we're inside, Volkov makes a beeline for the oversized Faraday cage one of my students built as part of her thesis. Like he knew it would be here, waiting for him. "What material is this lined with?" he asks through the open door. "Aluminum foil." "Ah, why? Worried it was silver?" The muscles of his jaw twitch. "No, that's another myth. Along with aversion to the crucifix, garlic, and wooden stakes. Nothing but superstitious nonsense, which, if I'm honest, I find rather insulting." "I see. It's going to take a while to get everything prepared." "I can wait," I hear him say. Except his lips didn't move. Much like your ascetic monks, we are capable of remaining motionless for protracted periods of time. Even when speaking into my mind, he sounds like a robot. "Stop that. I don't like it. It's invasive. Forgive me," he says for the millionth time. But at least it's out loud. I set to work calibrating the laser with the beam splitter. Then ensure the quantum camera is in position to catch all the action. Once the photons pass through the vacuum chamber and into the Faraday cage, they will entangle with Volkov's atoms. Or won't, if there is indeed some sort of interference. Then the beam will be rejoined on the other side by a sensor. The high-precision spectrometer, along with the computer program on my laptop, will gather and interpret the data. You do understand that should we manage to get an image, it's going to be little more than a ghostly outline, right? Nothing like an actual photograph. When was the last time you saw your reflection, Doctor? In the bathroom, after class. I've never seen myself at all. Not in the surface of a lake, nor the glint of an eye, nor a darkened pane of glass. You cannot cast a shadow if you are never in the sun. I've commissioned sketches and paintings, of course, but it isn't the same, is it? I've never seen a real, tangible image of Sasha Volkov. He pauses. Because he's so still, I can't tell if he's battling with something or just going dormant. Can you imagine how that feels? To have so little confirmation of your very existence? I mean, I teach for a living. I shrug. I wonder how many people he's fed on, how many pints of blood he's drank. Thousands, he says, reading my thoughts again. Why is that relevant? I asked you not to do that. I can't help it. It's like asking me to ignore a blaring car alarm. If you want my help, then you can try. He doesn't move. Yet I feel his irritation growing, as though he's funneling his feelings directly into me. How many animals have you consumed in your lifetime? How many cows, chickens, fish? I'm vegan. Have been since 2006. Figured you would know that. The point is, you don't think of your food in those terms. Would you castigate a lion for feasting on a lamb? It is the way of things. We have been with you since the beginning, in the shade of your monuments, co-evolving. Nature designed us for a singular purpose, to cull the human herd. But as you can see, we're doing a piss-poor job of it. There's more of you than ever. In a surprising, potentially deceptive twist, I feel his emotions sink into self-pity, like he believes, ultimately, it is he who is the victim. Aren't your kind just humans who've been bitten and turned? Like Lestat and Lewis, his irritation blooms into full-blown disgust. Ridiculous. Can you turn a chimpanzee into a Homo sapiens? We reproduce the same way you mammals do, via fornication and pregnancy. We are warm-blooded, after all. It's just not our blood. It doesn't originate from our bone marrow. His anger cools a few degrees, and he adds, I have never been human, but I have lived. I have seen wonders and horrors you cannot begin to fathom. We have our own society, tucked away in the nooks and crannies of yours. Our own ambitions, too. Glad for the change of subject, I announce. We are ready to run our first trial. Please stop talking now and remain stationary. Volkov shuts the door and settles in. I click on the laser. The beam is split and sent into the cage. The hum of the machinery comforts me, brings to mind the many students who've used it to embark on their first voyage into the realm of the subatomic. The inevitable look of rapture when they finally see the particles they've spent so long reading about. In the midst of this rumination, I realize it's providing a kind of psychic cover. My subject is occupied, the grip of his influence weakened. I slip a ballpoint pen into the pocket of my blazer and pray he doesn't notice. We run 6 trials in total. The whole process takes a little over 2 hours. Once it's finished, I take a screenshot of the results and send it to the printer in my office. Volkov exits the cage and joins me, and once it's printed, I hand him the copy. He accepts it like it's his birth certificate. Like I said, pretty grainy, but it worked, he murmurs. His fingers trace over the grayscale form, caressing it. He is totally transfixed. I feel his heady mixture of elation and awe, the vanity that coils around his heart like a serpent. It's me, he whispers. You got what you came for. I need to get going now. My family will be worried. Volkov gives me the side eye. Surely you know by now that lying to me is pointless. I don't know what you mean. If I don't get home soon, You live alone, Doctor. Have since your breakup with Paul. You don't own any pets. Nothing that depends on you for its survival. Not so much as a cactus. Your younger sister calls to check up on you every so often, but not often enough. He sounds bored with the subject, preferring to pore over the printout with the intensity of an art appraiser. Is there anything else your system picked up on? I push aside the sense of betrayal and shake my head. The emissions analysis produced a string of errors. That would seem to confirm your hypothesis of some kind of interference, as no entanglement occurred in any of the 6 runs. But it would take a much more thorough experiment to isolate the actual cause of that interference. I see, he says, licking his chops. No matter. Still a tremendous success. Unable to help myself, I blurt out, "Are you going to kill me now?" He blanches. He's probably manipulating me, but I can feel the sting of hurt feelings in his chest. Of course not, Doctor. You have me all wrong. He clutches the printout in both hands and peers around the lab, taking it all in. I want you to study me further. Enlist the help of others, if need be. People we can trust to test my DNA and take blood samples. Think about it. If we can produce more results like this, you can publish them. These findings will fundamentally alter the world's understanding of biology and quantum mechanics. And what might that do for your career? When I don't say anything, he continues, it's time Homo sapiens learned they are not so alone as they imagine. It is time for us to evolve beyond the predator/prey dynamic and work together. We have to do something before your species gets us all killed with your utter disregard for the health of this planet. His eyes land on me. Despite his words, I feel sick to my stomach, because in his zeal, he's accidentally let slide a few of his memories. I see his first kill at just 4 years old, hunting with his father in the streets of Quebec. The elderly homeless man bundled up in a doorway, the pale, mottled flesh of his throat, the profound hunger, 1,000 times stronger than any I've ever experienced, an insatiable need. The man awakens and finds himself immobilized by Volkov's father. Fear pours out of him in a thick stench. His final thoughts are filled with deep regret. He's struggled so hard for so long, endured so much, and survived on so little, only to meet his end as some night creature's meal. And little Volkov loves it. Every drop of remorse, every pitiable whimper, every dream. He feeds on them along with the blood, gorges on the man's life force until he's full as a tick. And his father says simply, "Good, I see his most recent kill from earlier in the night. Stephanie Albright, the student who made the Faraday cage. He broke into her dorm and drained her in her sleep. She died and never saw it coming." Volkov looks at me now. He knows that I know. "Don't," he warns. I jam the ballpoint pen into his chest. My aim is perfect. It lodges between the ribs slightly, to the left of his sternum, and hits something hard, catching when he takes a breath. He growls at me. "I told you that wouldn't work." Then I'm soaring through the air. My body collides with the quantum camera, shattering it against the wall. I land in a heap on the floor, sparks raining down around me. Pain shoots up my spine, the wind knocked out of me. Volkov is on top of me in seconds, his weight like a 1,000-ton hydraulic press. There is no further possibility of fighting back. "Do it then," I hiss at him. "I will not be like the man in the streets. I will not go to my death without dignity. If he's going to eat me, let him taste nothing but pure hatred." "Do it, you fucking parasite!" He flinches again. I feel his emotions fan out in a kaleidoscope of rage, disappointment, and woe, beneath which is a childlike longing for my approval. He can't hide it now that I've seen it. His need for recognition that washes over me in waves. It's nearly as overwhelming as his hunger, an insecurity born of being raised with no mother. "We could have done important work together," he says, voice choked with repudiation. Remember that. Then he's gone. His presence peels away like a bad dream. The overhead lights turn on. "Dr. Chande?" asks Officer Thompson. He's standing in the doorway, holding a nightstick. The school won't let him carry a gun. "Everything okay in here?" Shakily, I get to my feet and survey the damage to the lab. Other than the broken camera, all the equipment is intact. There's no sign Volkov was ever here, except for the image on my laptop. "I'm okay, officer," I say, "but we need to send the local police to Stephanie Albright's dorm room. There's been a homicide." Gripping his stick closer, Thompson asks, "How do you know that?" I stare at the screen, its spray pattern of photons in a vaguely humanoid shape. The world's first evidence of the supernatural. But it could be anything. No better than a UFO sighting or a blurry photograph of Bigfoot in the woods. I clear my throat and glance at the officer. In the wake of Volkov's influence, my emotions come flooding back with a vengeance. Hot tears spill down my face. I clear my throat and remind myself, no matter what I experience, I am a scientist. Call it a hunch. Remake. Chelsea Bonifade was a dirty blonde, hazel-eyed, nervous wreck. There was no Shakespearean way to put it. A sneeze had the girl run for cover, like a live grenade was tossed in her direction. She found solace in books, and yet she would see a library as too crowded for her comfort. If being an introvert could be mathematically cubed in real life, it would be her. A hall of mirrors stood before her, each one illuminated by a light inserted into the ceiling. At the behest of her date, promising that this would help with her anxiety and nervousness, she walked through the doorway and started her navigation, reflecting on not just the images before her, but on her memories of the past few weeks. For some reason, Tony Palmer had chosen her over all the other girls. Perhaps their outdoorsy demeanors put him off, given that they would exuberantly throw themselves onto any handsome boy with a large sum of money attached to his family's name. Or it could just be a personal preference. Chelsea never saw herself vainly, plainly applying a basic touch of makeup upon her visage before leaving her home to traverse the routine grounds of the school. It was during a day of taking her lunch out to the grounds that she actually bumped into Tony, her lunch meeting his shirt and adding more starch to it than what had been previously applied. He laughed the event off, but Chelsea was surprisingly insistent on washing out her mess. If anyone else found out about this at school, she couldn't bear to show her face around anymore. As for Tony, he had been with her for almost a month, exercising the second most important virtue of any relationship, which is patience, even when she was ready to give up on the relationship. He would counsel her, asking her to give it a little more time. There must be a way for them to connect. Somehow, he told her, he had to bring out that more outgoing part of Chelsea. A carnival arrived in town during the fall, giving an opportunity to both. Chelsea never went to any event and hesitated in reluctance, but Tony insisted, pursuing this issue with the reason being that this could change her. Soon, she said yes. Tony meant well, she thought, as she stepped between the frames, and after gently bumping into a glass wall and gasping, she felt around and found an empty space on her left, which she turned and followed. As more of her reflections popped up, her heart started beating faster. It wasn't because of this place. She remembered that she was shown the entrance and exit, with a map shown by Tony so as not to panic. No, it was because of Tony. She felt better around him. Was this love? Another glass wall, this time with the empty space on the right. She turned. He's cute. It was barely a whisper, yet it prevailed in this lonely place. Chelsea stopped and slowly turned. All she saw was her reflection, its back to her, with its head turned to look behind it at her. She breathed in relief and continued walking forward, believing that maybe it was just a thought that she echoed out loud. This was a shorter hallway with a longer glass wall peering into darkness, while 3 panes of mirrors had 3 Chelseas following the original to the next turn. Another left, and as she was rounding the corner, she noticed that one of the reflections delayed. She came back, all 3 reflections now keeping pace with her, yet the third one down seemed slower than the rest. It almost acted reluctant. Chelsea shook her head, the images mimicking her action, yet the third one delayed again when the action ceased. She moved away from this image and headed left. No glass walls with black backgrounds were in this section, only more mirrors. This time, there were 2 openings flanking a reflective wall, made larger than the other mirrors via an upward slope in the ceiling, with a cross-reeded pattern like that found in shower enclosures etched across its face. As she drew closer to it, the space opened up in a faceted half-octagon shape, like prongs of a tuning fork that stabbed into their respective openings. 4 more reflections came into view, each one distorted by a warpage made underneath the reflective coating. One was short and seemed to jump from left to right. One was tall with a small head. One appeared to be getting bigger and wider, and one looked, well, like a normal reflection. Chelsea was curious as to what the image in the cross-reeded patterned mirror looked like. "I'm scared," there was that whisper again. Chelsea held her hand to her mouth. "I feel so exposed." "Another one!" She tightened her grip upon her lips. "This is stupid." Each of these voices, they sounded familiar. They sounded like the same person. It was her voice. Her mouth was starting to scream in pain, while a whine from within was blocked by the enclosing of her own jaw, aided by the vice grip of her hands. Despite this, it wasn't loud enough to drown out what she discerned as humming. She had not hummed since she was a child. Her eyes darted to the reflections, hoping that it was all just some elaborate prank, that there were other people in this place. At the same time, she hoped that no one else was here, as she didn't want to be seen like this. When she examined these facsimiles, one by one, they moved with her in almost all aspects save one. Their heads remained focused on her. Each one moved their own lips and gave a testimony, starting with the small moving reflection, seconded by the tall reflection with the small head, and nearing conclusion with the growing reflection. "I want to be brave. He can't see me like this. Damn it, what the hell is wrong with me?" That left the fourth one, the humming image. Chelsea slowly advanced on it, the humming increasing in volume. She was in front of this mirror, the reflection copying her every move down to the last muscle twitch. The sound it gave off reverberated not just upon the glass, but it was bouncing off of Chelsea's own body in synesthesia. It felt numbing, even comfortable, and then it stopped. Pain shot through Chelsea, and she clutched her side and her chest. She collapsed upon her knees, staring at the shoes of the humming image. It was still standing, looking down at her from some flat dimension. The humming came back, and the pain started to rescind. She stood back up and lifted her hand to brush away her hair. The humming image copied her movement, but when she lowered her hand back down, it kept its arm up and gave her a wave with scraggly fingers. Her nerve was failing, and she backed away. The humming lessened with the distance, but the rest of the voices increased as she retreated to the center. Chelsea felt herself bump into the cross-reeded reflection, and the voices quieted as suddenly as they had started, including the humming. She slowly pivoted, taking in the new reflection, barely conceived by the cross-reed pattern. She could make out the dirty blonde follicles, the pale skin, the lack of clothes. She peered closer, placing her hands upon the glass. The distortion did the same, and she noticed that it appeared to hover above her, despite its fingers touching exactly where hers resided. There were its hazel eyes, looking upon her. There was its mouth, opened slightly like hers. Both were frozen in place, the distortion just barely a foot above her level. Condensation started to build before them, getting heavier until Chelsea could no longer see the distortion's face. She leaned closer, with the condensation spreading downwards as well as sideways. The distortion also leaned closer, seeming to plant its head almost directly on the glass. The condensation started to gather droplets, falling down the mirror in streaks. She could have sworn that she heard crying. The distortion reared back in an instant and slammed its face against the glass. Chelsea bounced back in fright. The distortion repeated the action again and again, moving faster with each strike. The condensation, once appearing white as a fog, was now turning red, just like the thing's face and hair as it struck once more, the heavy glass shaking under each impact. Chelsea cried out and ran, taking the left opening as a cracking sound emanated behind her. More mirrors, more distortions, left, right, blackened glass, opening, and Chelsea clutching her chest once more as that pain returned. "Where's the end?" she called out. "Tony, someone, please." Now her head started to throb as tears streamed down her own face. The room seemed to spin. Nausea was seizing her, and she braced herself. Somewhere, close by, she could smell something familiar. Cotton candy, caramel apples, the moisture of a cooling atmosphere. She was close. She knew it. She felt against the mirrors, the twisted apparitions also reaching back for her. Another left, and she finally saw it. Just around the last corner, the exit was revealed perpendicular to the last mirror. Something dripped past her right eye and hit the floor. She took it as a tear and moved closer to the final stretch. Another sound of dripping liquid was heard near her left side, followed by another and another. And she looked down, illuminated by the last 3 lights before the exit. There was a growing dark splotch on the floor. She looked up, being greeted only by the dark gray ceiling and the final mirror. More drips. Confused, she brushed her hand through her hair, feeling something wet upon her scalp. She pulled her hand back before her eyes. Red blood? She sniffed it. But there was no metallic aroma. In fact, it smelled nice, like freshly shampooed hair. She felt around her head again. More red. This made no sense. She turned to the final mirror. The sight of her blonde hair, broken in so many places, with splotches of red, ramped up the already rapid drumming of her heart. What's worse was that these splotches appeared to be growing from around her head to the bulbs and tips, spreading even to the front. She reached up and grabbed her bangs, her morphing reflection doing the same. Pulling her hair close to her eye, she could see that it was still dirty blonde. The reflection watched her panicked state with intrigue, releasing its reddening hair as she released hers. Her panic drained from her in that moment, a strange peace starting to seize her as the reflection smiled confidently. The pain was gone. The fear was shrinking. A coolness surrounded her, and she stepped back, the reflection mirroring her movements. She turned to look at her exit, just as this strange doppelganger looked out hers. They exchanged a glance one last time. Then they both moved to the threshold. Satchly. Fainbode walked out of the Hall of Mirrors, meeting Tony on the grass and kissing him on the lips. He pulled away, surprised at the sudden change in this young woman. "Hey babe, did you change your hair in the halls?" She smiled at him and caressed her auburn locks. "Yep. And then some." Gertrude Inn. The span of my childhood could be separated into 2 categories: knowing and not knowing. In fact, everyone in my family, even the adults, could split similarly. Those who knew and those who didn't. Regardless of which category you fell into, everyone knew Grandma had certain proclivities. It was an unspoken thing, yet you felt how heavily it threaded into every conversation and side comment at family gatherings. No one really talked about it, not outright, but it was always there, lingering between the lines. The not knowing. Part of my childhood wasn't all blissful ignorance. Like the not knowing adults, there were always hints of restlessness whenever we visited Grandma's House of Mirrors. That's what everyone called it. Though, to the public, it was Gertrude Inn, a quaint, 3-story, 100-year-old 10-bedroom house operating as a bed and breakfast, run by someone in my family since its inception. Despite how often she smiled, Grandma had this way of putting the house on edge. In a way, the inn was a reflection of her, aged, unique, beautiful, but full of secrets. Everyone walked on eggshells around her, though I'd never witnessed her so much as raise her voice. She smiled warmly, yet her eyes held a cold indifference that felt like she was seeing right through you, guts and all. Gertrude Inn sat in darkness during the day, supposedly to save on electricity. One single window and a shining beam of light brightened the winding corridors on each of the second and third floors. Those single sun rays felt so lively compared to all the shadows, with dust particles dancing in the warmth. My cousins used to make a game of only trying to walk in the sun, lest your legs get snatched by some faceless monster in the dark. There was some speculation that Gertrude Inn was haunted. Creaking floors and dim lighting aside, people reported strange sounds at all hours. Some guests even claimed to see ghosts. The inn had its own cult following amongst supernatural enthusiasts who shared photos of specter light orbs and ghostly apparitions of small girls and old ladies online, because the old lady ghosts looked eerily similar to Grandma. It was widely accepted that it must have been the ghost of a woman in our family tree. But the thing that really made Gertrude Inn feel like a horror movie set was the mirrors. My great-grandfather built them, and over the last 100 years, the walls became filled, nearly every clean inch coated in aluminum reflection. That single sun ray from those lone windows on each floor bounced about, decorating the halls in a disorienting, masking glow. Around the time when I transitioned from not knowing to knowing, I gained a unique fascination with the mirrors. My cousins, aunts, and uncles liked to pretend they didn't exist. When we were delegated to help out around the inn, I'd watch the others stalk the halls ahead of me, carrying buckets of cleaning supplies and fresh sheets, never looking from left to right at the mirrors. Gazes fastened directly ahead, but I couldn't help but look back and forth, short as I was, fascinated by the different heights and styles of the framed mirrors around me, and how different and distorted they made me look, my face contorting and reshaping with each step. I liked to take my time in each bedroom when I cleaned, those walls equally covered in mirrors, making faces at myself and imagining someone else staring back at me. The year after Grandpa died, Grandma became more reclusive. One evening, my parents sent me to track her down, as she'd been missing since lunch, and it was long past dinner. Up to the 3rd floor, past the guest rooms, the further along I crept. the more the walls narrowed. A single sconce poorly illuminated the dark at each turn, but that one small light bounced off the mirrors, casting a dizzying glimmer. My reflection echoed all the way down the hallway, thousands of me watching back. Finally, I approached her room, and my hand shook as it clasped the vintage crystal doorknob, which spun loosely like it needed a repair, then pushed my way in. Her bed was made, complete with a crocheted white doily adorning an old quilt. Another draped over a little red table, and a lit desk lamp that glowed beneath the stained glass lampshade. A soft humming caught my attention, but I couldn't tell where the sound was coming from. She wasn't anywhere in the tiny bedroom. I circled the space, trying to locate the source. The humming grew louder as I neared the armoire. I wouldn't consider myself a brave kid, but my curiosity was piqued, and no matter how hard my little heart rattled in my chest, or how sweaty my shaky hands felt, I pressed my ear to the closet door and listened. I gripped the metal handle, and the moment the door cracked open, Grandma's humming grew louder. Shoving dresses and shirts on coat hangers to the side, I stepped through a hole at the back of the closet. "Grandma?" I called out. The humming paused, then picked up again. I kept climbing, stepping over mounds of boots and boxes, until I emerged into the brightest lit room in the house, and there were mirrors everywhere. "Hello, darling Mercy." Grandma gestured for me to join her, not the least bit surprised to see me. "What is all this?" I looked around in wonder at all the beautiful, ornate mirrors, some framed in elaborate gold filigree, some in thick, knotted wood. Grandma stood in front of 3 large glass panels, resting on a massive, open-backed easel. Paintbrush in hand, she elbowed me playfully. "How'd you find me, little bug? Is this how you make mirrors?" I looked around in wonder. Grandma didn't answer. Her humming resumed, as did her painting. I glanced down at the table and saw 3 identical empty frames, all silver, with intricate faces painted along the edges. The faces resembled cherubs, but their teeth looked more like fangs. Smiles distorted. I looked back at the glass she was painting and noticed something odd. "Grandma, how come you can see through these mirrors?" Her humming continued as she painted a silver metallic sheen on the glass. On one side, the silver allowed your reflection to stare back, but on the other, the glass was see-through, like a window. I wasn't a mirror expert, not like Grandma or my great-grandpa, but I broke a mirror when I was cleaning once, and I remember the backside being dark. You couldn't see through it like you could these. Grandma kept humming, and I was hungry, and that room creeped me out. So I shrugged and waved goodbye, reminding her my mom was looking for her. I dismissed the strange room, letting it remain tucked away in the recesses of my memory. Then, one weekend, I got assigned to room cleaning. We all took turns helping out at the inn, but it was more of a chore as I got older. The secrets of the old house held less interest for me. That is until I took a bottle of Windex into a room on the second floor, spraying down one of the many mirrors, and I recognized the silver metal frame, intricately painted cherubs with fang-like teeth and distorted smiles staring back at me. The one-way mirrors. I tried to pull the mirror off the wall, to look behind it, but was surprised to find it securely stuck. No matter how hard I tried to pull it off, it wouldn't budge. A cold chill ran down my spine as I recalled the secret room. That was when I realized there were two kinds of people in this family: those who knew and those who didn't. Grandma passed away a couple of years later, but still, I kept her secrets. My family argued about who would take care of the inn. It had been in our family for so long, no one wanted to give it up. But no one wanted to take responsibility for it either. Finally, they came to a compromise and decided to share the duties. So, one of our families would move into the inn each season to take care of the guests and keep Gertrude Inn up and running until someone stepped up and decided to take over the House of Mirrors. It was summer when it was our turn. Mom and Dad claimed a bedroom on the first floor, and though no one wanted to sleep in Grandma's old room, I claimed it greedily. Gertrude Inn had a presence, a sort of sentient awareness, like you could feel her breathing. She tensed and held her breath, and so did I when I crept into the armoire that first night. I palmed the back of the old wardrobe, my hands sweaty as I searched for the secret knob. When I entered Grandma's secret room, it was pitch black. I stumbled around in the dark, seeking out the hanging lamps I remembered briefly from my only previous visit. But in my search, as my hands felt along the walls, I found another doorknob. My heart racing, I slowly twisted the tiny metal handle, the creaking sound like a thunderclap, considering the height of my nerves. My foot padded out ahead, testing the floor, and as both hands pressed against the narrow walls, I discovered a light switch. Though the light cast was dim, like everything else at Gertrude Inn, it was enough. Slowly, I stumbled into the corridor, merely 3 feet wide, between the bedrooms, floors creaking loudly beneath my bare feet. And then I watched in horror through the backs of the mirrors as guests slept the night away. I held every gasp and breath as my brain tried desperately to comprehend what I saw. A shriek tore out of my throat when I came upon a couple having sex, and the man stopped mid-thrust to whisper, "Did you hear that?" to his partner. My hand clasped over my mouth, terrified they'd know I was there, know what hid behind the mirrors. I turned around and ran back to the secret room. I turned off the light, banged my knee against a table in my rush to escape. And when I returned to my new bedroom, I stared at the armoire in screaming silence until the sun came up. It took hours to calm my racing heart. And in that time, I thought back to every interaction I'd ever had with my grandma. All the puzzle pieces and bits of memory I tucked away, slowly clicking into place. Walking over to a mirror, I stared back at my reflection until I no longer felt scared or uncomfortable. The following morning at breakfast, I watched my parents, not knowing, move around the kitchen in blissful ignorance, shaking cereal into bowls and discussing their days over morning coffee. "Mercy, you feeling okay?" Mom placed the back of her hand over my forehead, frowning. I cleared my throat. "Yeah, I'm good. Must have been a little weird to sleep in Grandma's room last night. No one would blame you if you decided to stay in another room. We can rework that one into a guest room." "No." Their eyes widen at my reaction. "Sorry." "No, I'm good. Actually, it made me feel closer to her. And, I was thinking, she showed me once how to make the mirrors. I think I'd like to take it over, learn the family business." I shrugged and dug my spoon into the milky cereal, ignoring my parents' tight smiles. They don't want me to become like Grandma, even if they don't know precisely why. What I do know is that Gertrude Inn breathes for me, and I'll keep her secrets, maybe make a few of my own. Returning Marie. Now, before I say anything else, I just need to establish that I am not mad. I have every reason to be mad, but I'm not. I'm not mad. I've never been less mad than I am right now, even though I have every reason to be madder than I've ever been in my life. To the best of my recollection, you were not working here when I came in on Sunday. I'm sure I would remember somebody with as many piercings as you, especially with you being such a young lady and all. I'm sure I would have made some sort of comment about how you don't have a wedding ring on your finger. And that's probably due to all those cartoons you've chosen to imprint upon yourself. No. When I came in here on Sunday, there was a rather old man working behind the counter. I told him I was looking for a rug because my mother-in-law is coming to town, and whenever she comes over, she expects me to put out all the gifts she's gotten me over the years. 18 years of marriage, and she expects to see everything she's ever bought as though my home is some sort of Daphne Rubite museum. That's her name. Daphne Rubite. She tells me it's Latin, but who knows? The woman lies about everything. Why should her name be any different? Anyway, she got me a rug for Christmas last year, and it was so hideous that I kept it outside in the shed. But when I sent my husband, Griff, to go fetch it so we could display the awful thing, he said, It appeared somebody had broken into the shed and stolen it. Do you believe that? Somebody actually wanted that disgusting rug so much they committed a crime in order to have it. Not that there's much in that shed worth anything, but even the bags of dirt would have been a better choice. My word, I came in here on Sunday because I was looking for a rug that appeared similar to the ugly rug that was stolen. But despite this, allegedly, being an antique store, you do not sell rugs here. I believe I filed a formal complaint in that little suggestion box you have at the front, but I haven't heard any response yet. We can circle back to that later. When I expressed my disappointment to the old man working here at the counter, he offered to give me a discount on what he described as a rather interesting mirror. He went into the back of the store and came back with the item. I found it to be a bit too ornate for my taste. It was imitation gold, and the glass had several scratches on it. I told the old man that a discount would not suffice for a damaged object, but that I would accept it as a gift from the store, since I found it so unprofessional of him not to offer unattractive rugs. He took a moment, looked at the mirror, and then agreed to give it to me, gratis. The old man did not put up much of a fight, and I suppose I should have taken that as a sign that something was amiss. When I got the mirror home, I had absolutely no desire to ever look at it again. The only reason I took it was because I never turned down a deal, and there is no better deal than free. I decided to deposit it in my daughter's room. Riva is 15, and as such, she believes she has impeccable taste, when in fact, she has no taste whatsoever. She was quite stunned when I showed her the mirror. It's unusual for me to give her gifts, even on her birthday, when I usually donate money to a charity in her name. She took to the mirror immediately, and Griff did his best to hang it in her room without putting holes in every wall. Finally, he managed to erect it by her closet, and then we all went about our day in preparation for the arrival of Queen Daphne. Almost immediately, things began to go wrong. I noticed that suddenly all the photographs around the house had been altered. I had no idea how it was happening, but the heads of everyone in the photos were gone. Simply gone. I thought it might be some sort of prank, but neither my husband nor my daughter are all that funny. When I mentioned the occurrence at dinner that night, Riva confessed to me that she believed her mirror was haunted. Not just haunted, mind you, but haunted by the ghost of Marie Antoinette. I would have chalked the whole thing up to a teenager's imagination. But my daughter is the least imaginative person you've ever met in your life. Deciding to investigate myself, I marched straight up to her room and planted myself in front of that mirror. Sure enough, after only a moment or two, there she was, Reina de France herself. She had her head but there was a minor scar around her neck, and she was holding the most adorable little dog. My French is spotty, since I haven't spoken it since college, when I spent a semester abroad in Paris, smoking cigarettes and ordering hamburgers at French cafes. I managed to work out that the mirror given to me was once owned by Marie's great-great-granddaughter, and she had taken up residence in it since she found heaven to be rather dull. She was the one who changed all the photos, and she said she planned on committing even more mischief for as long as she was in my house, unless I donated her to a museum where she belonged. Well, if that stuck-up monarch thought I was going to relinquish my own property simply to avoid a little poltergeisting, she was sadly mistaken. I told Marie that she was now a guest in my home and would act accordingly, or I would see to it that her mirror was placed in the shed where some petty thieves might abscond with it, the same way they had with the revolting rug my mother-in-law had purchased for me. I was so invested in intimidating a dead Frenchwoman that I didn't even hear the front door open. Daphne had entered our house without knocking, shocker, and came right upstairs to greet Riva, because her granddaughter is the only person she actually cares to see. She arrived just in time to hear me relay to Marie the story of the stolen rug, and she was none too pleased. I turned to see her standing in the doorway, holding the most vile candelabra I've ever laid my eyes on. "Well," she huffed, "would you care to throw this in the shed as well?" Truth be told, that's exactly what I wanted to do with it. Over the next few days, I couldn't tell you who irritated me more, my mother-in-law or the ghost of Marie Antoinette. While Daphne did her standard passive-aggressive commentary on everything from my fashion choices. A woman your age wearing skirts? How brave. To how I raise my child. Would one birthday gift a year really be that bad? Marie preferred to be a bit more whimsical in her torment. The house was constantly filled with smoke, for no reason at all. It wasn't until I located the source of the smoke that I realized our oven was on high, and there was a cake burning inside of it. It might be true that she never actually uttered the phrase about letting servants have their pastry, but that's no reason to waste perfectly good food. I have no idea how she even put the cakes together in the first place, since we normally order takeout and keep absolutely nothing in our pantries. Another tidbit Daphne likes to use against me when she visits. "No sugar," she'll squawk. What kind of a household has no sugar? A skinny household. That's what I feel like saying, but I never do. If I hadn't known better, I would have thought the two of them were conspiring against me in my own home. Daphne blamed Marie when all my skincare products were suddenly smeared all over the bathroom walls. But I can't believe anyone that rich would willfully waste La Mer. Marie was definitely responsible for what was going on with Riva. however, my daughter suddenly began acting out. She was shouting about bourgeoisie and escargot and something about a pot de chambre. It took me a day or so, but then I understood that Marie was trying to possess the girl in order to have an even more effective way of terrorizing everyone in the household. Griff was no help at all during all of this. By the way, he loves the History Channel, so for him, this was all wildly entertaining. It wasn't until Riva began taking 5 baths a day and demanding that I feed her bonbons that I decided enough was enough. My plan was to take the mirror out to the shed and smash it into 1,000 pieces. But I remember seeing an old horror film where destroying the haunted item caused the specter to permanently embed itself in the home. The last thing I needed was my daughter walking around like royalty until leaving for whatever community college we'd be sending her off to. I waited until earlier today, when Daphne and Riva were sitting on the couch with a cheese plate watching Les Miserables. And then I tore up to Riva's room and grabbed the mirror. I had to be careful coming down the stairs with it. But luckily for me, they were engrossed in the scene where the revolutionaries were being slaughtered. "Brilliant," I heard Marie exclaim in French. "I just love a good comedy." Somehow, all by myself, I managed to get this ghastly mirror into my car and drive it all the way back here. Now, I would like to return it. I would like an apology. I would like 3 free items from this store, all of which I will be choosing. I would also like an assurance that the old man who gave me the mirror is fired. What do you mean you don't have any old man working here? He was very distinct looking. He had bifocals, salt and pepper hair, and his left ear was a bit lower than his right. Surely you must know him, the owner, all right? Fine. So he's the owner. I still want him fired. What's that? When? 10 years ago. And how? A car accident? My. Well, that's what I get for not asking for a receipt. Oil and water. The scrutiny of the gallery guard weighed on Spencer like a wet dressing gown. He'd felt watched since he pushed through the heavy doors into the guard's peacefully unvisited room. Spencer was tired from his unplanned journey and thought that the gallery of the unfamiliar town might offer sanctuary, a place where he could clear his head sufficiently to be able to plan his next move. He had ignored the guard, who lingered near a door-sized slab of a painting on the right wall of the gallery. He had turned immediately to the left wall and had been standing silently in front of the first painting, hung there for a couple of minutes, trying to think. He just needed to think. The painting was of a young artist sketching a large pig's head. The pig was dead in the profound way reserved for decapitated things, objectified by the disconnection, but somehow more of a head than ever in the absence of a body. The head suggested a hierarchy of death. Even a dead thing could be less dead than a pig with no head, or a head with no pig. Staring, Spencer became aware of the feeble beating of his heart. He needed to clear his head. Death was death, whatever the bristly head said. There were no less dead things. He was alive and still wanted to choose his own future. Still could, if he could only think of what to do. Conscious of the weight of his own tired meat, he shuffled away from the pig. Spencer's eyes scanned ahead of him as he crept along the left wall of the gallery, following the low metal barrier wire that kept visitors and paintings at arm's length. He sensed the guard watching him from his post next to a large, dark canvas on the right wall. He did not stop next to a huge oil of a group of idealized 19th century peasants. The most prominent figure, a rosy-cheeked girl, her delicate bare feet romantically invulnerable to the field's brutal stubble, was staring at him, as was the stern overseer who supervised the girl and her gleaning rabble. The eyes of the overseer and the gallery guard held Spencer in a pincer of disapproval. He kept walking and found relief in front of a benignly curving river, rolling past a grassed bank under skies of early autumn gray. Eyes were still on Spencer, glaring from their place on the right wall, cutting through his back like a barber surgeon. Spencer breathed, filling his pressured lungs, and held his ground in front of the painting of nothing. There were other footsteps in the gallery now, another body to share the guard's gaze and allow Spencer the space to think. The gleaning girl was not her. It didn't even look like her, except for the delicate bare feet, the last thing he'd seen as he left the bathroom. Bath softened and steaming, wet in the air. Her feet could never have survived the rough field. Footsteps moved around him now, softened by gallery etiquette. Spencer ignored them, choosing to see nobody in the hope that he would remain unseen. He focused on the painting. The river would wash the thoughts of her away. He could sweep away into the distance on its soft curve. But the future that the river flowed towards was empty. It mirrored the gray sky and carried the reflection of nothing to nowhere. Spencer couldn't let the water take him there. He moved on, feeling that the stare from the direction of the large, dark portrait was being unfairly reserved for him, despite the presence of another moving around the space with him now. Spencer had driven when he should have been sleeping. He had imagined that he would find peace in the distance that he'd put between himself and the bathroom. But all he had done was stretch his fear over a greater space and carry it with him to a new town. His air-dried shirt stank, and his rheumy eyes watched his tired feet trudge over the parquet. avoiding the ceaseless gaze of the guard. The next painting looked much more like her than the gleaning girl had. This young girl was sleeping. The soft pink arm curling around creased, plump pillows was hers. The arm belonged to the feet, steaming and pinkly clean, sticking up out of the water, hanging over the edge of the bath. This was a portrait of the arm that had once encircled him at the house of a mutual friend and made the deal between them. The small hand had settled on his back and told him the lie that she would never leave. After the clumsy, self-taught chess of their early relationship, they had moved into a flat together and settled into a domestic stalemate. Their dreamt future rapidly revealed itself to be unwinnable. His career prematurely lost with the part of him that he sacrificed to the medication. She became his whole, unlosable life. If he could continue at all, then it could only be with her. She could never leave him, and he could never leave her. Spencer stared at the sleeping girl in the painting. Her short brown hair was still neat. Her sleep could only have been the briefest of naps. It was not the knotted mop that had once smothered the pillow next to his, the sun-catching nest for her late sleeping head. And neither was it the weightless weed that had billowed and writhed under the bath's hot water. The smooth, pink arm hadn't been strong enough to free the hair from the splash and suck of the water. But when the struggle was over, and the only movement was the curl of steam over the ripples cast by a single tear, the peace in her face was the same as that of the painting's sleeping girl. Spencer had given her peace and left none for himself. She could never leave him now. Spencer felt the guard's stare on his back. The footsteps of the other visitor were gone, and he bore the stare alone. The guard was staring with her eyes, bath poached and unblinking. They steamed into Spencer, seeing his past and keeping him tied to the present of the gallery. The guard knew. The paintings knew. Spencer turned quickly, forced to move by the suspicion of the guard and the watching walls. The guard was not there. There was nobody there. The wet footprints of some rain-chased visitor crossed the polished floor between him and the tall, dark portrait on the opposite wall. He followed the watery tracks towards the painting. He walked, transfixed, until his shins pulled the low barrier wire bowstring tight. And then he leant in further, creasing at the waist. His eyes dragged to the canvas. He looked at his own face, staring back at him. The last time he had looked at himself, he had seen a steam-softened reflection quivering over the rock pool of a slack mouth. Now he saw a perfect mirror image of himself, no less immaculate in its likeness for being scraped in thick oils. The red eyes were one slow blink away from the terror of sleep. Spencer's painted brow was creased in the frown that the image forced him to wear, but the shirt in the canvas still dripped with the splashes of struggle, and the hands, which hung limply at his sides, were pink and steaming. In the background, a bath, a murmuration of flicked brush strokes, showing the same gossamer steam rising from it that wreathed the pink hands. It was a masterpiece. Spencer was mesmerized. Footsteps came and went, clicking and squeaking around Spencer, indifferent to his fixation. His lower back burned as he leant into the painting. He felt glances of concern slip over him and then vanish as visitors moved on and abandoned the petrified man. Spencer needed to move on too. He needed to look away from the pleading red eyes to continue his escape, but he could not. The barrier wire cut into his fleshless shins, and pain climbed up his legs to burn at the base of his craning spine. His mouth dried as his unblinking eyes gummed and seeped. After an unknown length of time, when Spencer saw the steam in the painting begin to curl and climb, creeping out of the frame, the lights went out. The darkness moved in the steam and rolled unseen towards Spencer. He felt its hot caress, and then the vapor settling and condensing in his raw throat. A hand, dripping, warm and small, found the base of his burning spine and pushed with an irresistible strength. Spencer surged forward into the blackness, back to the bathroom he had never escaped. If she could never leave him, then he would never leave her. The next morning, the gallery guard flicked a row of switches, triggering a staccato dawn, which bounced the rarely visited room rapidly in and out of existence before it settled into the new day. As the guard took up his position, he noticed that wet footprints still marked the unmopped floor in front of the large, bleak painting of the man with rolled-up sleeves and the pallor of an unripe strawberry. Behind the man, glinting eyes peeked through a tangle of wet hair. Over the edge of a steaming bath, 308 years later. Just listen. Don't talk. You need time to wake up, for your eyesight to return. Everything will be a little hazy, and you might not remember how you got here, but you need to focus on my voice. My name is Dr. Yadav. I tried to lean forward, but my body felt as if it weighed 100 tons. I barely moved an inch before I slumped back into the bed. This is going to be a lot to hear at once, but it's important that you know these things right away. In 2043, your body was suspended in an experimental bioamber, freezing your body until woken. You participated in this trial because you had been diagnosed with Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease and given 6 months to live. At the time of your diagnosis, researchers estimated that they were less than 30 years from finalizing a cure. How long? I coughed, a thin film of bioamber, tasting like burnt paracetamol, covering every receptor inside my mouth, nose, and throat. You can talk. That's excellent. Much quicker than the others. Excellent. Superb, he said, pausing to make a note. Well, I don't mean to use too much of an old cliché, but there's bad news and there's good news. The good news is a cure has been found, and it was administered before you woke up. Congratulations. You're free of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. The bad news is that it didn't come as quickly as researchers had expected. Tell me, I sputtered. My eyelids flickered as I tried to force them open. The agreement that you signed stipulated that you were only to be woken up after a cure had been found. The year is now 2351. You didn't know that it would take 308 years when you signed that document. And for that, I am truly sorry. There should have been a clause in the agreement that prevented this scenario from coming to fruition. There was much debate within the scientific community as to whether or not you should be woken up. And I hope that you feel we made the right choice. Mr. Jones, welcome to the 24th century. This isn't funny, I snapped, but I already knew that he was telling the truth. I could feel it in the tone of his voice, the way the air felt as I breathed it in, the unfamiliar ambient noise trickling into the room. But I couldn't admit it. Not yet. Did Angela put you up to this? What the hell is going on? Said the doctor, tapping away at a device. After a short pause, he told me that it appears your sister was buried in July 2089. I'm so sorry for your loss. Once you've fully recovered, we can take you to where she was buried, if you'd like. My vision was returning, each second bringing a small increase in light. I could now make out the silhouette of the doctor, his sympathetic stance over my bed. Really? This was all I could say. What else could I say to him? I already believed him. It was starting to come back to me in pieces. Angela, the disease, hospital. I can remember her face screwed up like a pillow, crying and asking me if I was sure. I told her I'd be back before she knew it. I'm afraid so. As far as we can tell, you have no living family beyond distant cousins. I can imagine that this must be a lonely experience for you. But believe me when I say that we're all here for you. I tried to swing my legs off of the side of the bed, but could only muster a twitch. Mr. Jones, it may be some time until you're back on your feet again. You'll need a few days to adjust, he said, watching my face as I winced at my immobile legs. The man's voice was kind. He really wanted the best for me, I felt. You're going to need some rest. You're suffering from what we can only describe as severe jet lag. Your body clock was expecting it to be 3 centuries ago when you woke up. Is that how jet lag works? We don't know. Nobody has been in amber for nearly as long as you, and it's been decades since anyone has been woken up. We won't know what the effects on your body have been yet, but we'll keep a close eye on it. When he returned the next day, after I'd slept for what felt like weeks, his tone had begun to shift. It was almost imperceptible, but I could feel the change innately. "Good morning, Mr. Jones. How are we feeling this morning?" "Good." I nodded. "I'm starving, though. I feel like I haven't eaten in centuries. Do you have anything?" Dr. Yadav smiled, pointing toward the tubes that connected my forearm to a machine next to the bed. I inspected it closely, only now aware of my vision having completely returned. "All the nutrients that you'll be needing for now," he said. I sat up in the bed, feeling a world better than the day before, but still weak and unable to completely support my body weight. "So, Doc, what's the world like out there? What's changed? Don't tell me. Flying cars, right?" The doctor exhaled, looking up, shaking his head. Imagine trying to explain the world as you knew it to someone from 1743. Almost impossible, isn't it? Telephones, the internet, airplanes. It would all be so far removed from his reality that it would be impossible to explain in a way that he would really understand. His lack of understanding might even lead him to believe that people from your time live in a hellish place. I paused and reflected. Could it really be that different? I looked around. The one small window on the other side of the room was frosted, the bed like any other I'd seen, and the rest of the room almost entirely featureless. "You're wondering if it's really that different, huh?" he said. "The room has been specifically designed to not overwhelm you. A lot of preparation has gone into waking you. We've been waiting for this for a long time. We just don't know what to expect. So we're taking things slowly. I hope you understand." "I'll be fine, Doc, honestly. I'm actually quite excited to go out and see the world, see what's come of it. And by the way, where am I? Chicago. The city of your birth, I'm told. It only seemed right that you were moved to this facility before we woke you. But you're not ready to head outside just yet. There's a lot of things that we'd need to explain to you before you went out there. Otherwise, it might all too overwhelming. I mean, just us telling you about the world is going to be overwhelming. But to see it, to see what's out there, it'll take some adjusting, that's for sure. I'm sure I can handle it, but I'll take your word for it. When will I be better? Back on my feet? Only a day or two. As I said, what's happening to you isn't something that's ever really happened before, so there's still a few unknowns. Good. So, what next? A tenseness seemed to creep onto the doctor's shoulders, and with a twitch in his eye, he began to shift his weight from one foot to the other, as if suddenly disassociating and leaving the room entirely. "Doc? Oh, yes," he snapped out of his daze. "We'll need to run some tests. You're a man from the past. There's a lot we can learn about you. But it'll all be fine. Really, it will be." When he had told me that I had woken into a world 308 years beyond my own, his tone of voice told me that he was telling the truth. His tone of voice was now telling me that he was lying, and I was right. That night, whilst I was half asleep, 3 new doctors came in. "Is he awake?" one of them whispered to another. They tapped away at their pads, prompting a hiss from the machine beside me, which was the last thing that I heard before waking up in a new room, blinded by lights. I was naked, lying flat on a slab, my wrists and ankles inexplicably bound to its corners. My head turned from side to look, but there were no straps holding me in place. As if by magic, I was restrained. I looked down towards my ankles to find that my abdomen had been opened like a fruit or a pair of double doors, my skin attached on the sides of my body, but resting like blankets beside me. A machine hovered above me, metal instruments dangling towards the undulating yellow and pink of my innards. Immediately, I screamed, and the machine spun towards me before I passed out again. I awoke back in my bed, slowly at first, before shifting into a panicked scramble up the bed. I lifted my shirt quickly, but found nothing. No evidence of surgery. Panting, I began to realize that it was simply a dream. There was no other explanation. An awful dream, so vivid, so frightening, that if I hadn't had woken, I would have never known not to be reality. The doctor came in. "Mr. Jones, how are you feeling? You're looking a little sweaty. I'll get the heat turned down." He tapped away at his device. "Just a bad dream. I'm fine. I guess I'm just adjusting to being awake after all this time." Yes, when we're treading new biological waters, we're bound to discover new effects on the human body and mind. That's why it's important for you to stay here, under observation for the time being. But listen, that's not why I'm here, he said, walking to the window, picking up a seat under it, and bringing it back to place beside the bed. Sitting down, taking on a somber expression, he explained, "There is a legal responsibility as your doctor to fully inform you of your options, all of them. Since you're not from this time, you won't know that euthanasia is a common practice now. We don't force anyone to choose between life or a brutal, self-inflicted death. You should know that being a patient of ours, this is something we can provide to you for free. It's designed to be quite pleasant. I just want you to know that this option will always be available." "Thanks, Doc," I chuckled. "Good to know," he nodded, tapped at his device again. Catching me completely off guard, I was now falling asleep again. In the first few moments, I wondered if I had miscommunicated. Perhaps this was euthanasia. Was I dying? Was I being sedated? I should have been clearer. I tried to protest, but only managed a small murmur before slipping under. When I awoke, I was back on that terrible slab, held captive again under the piercing lights of the operating table. I looked down to find that, whilst my abdomen was intact, there was something wrong with my leg. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but it didn't look or feel as it should. I looked across to find that cruel machine again. This time it was facing away from me, inspecting something. I squinted, trying to shut out the operating lights and focus. It was holding something. A stick. Something white, slightly yellowish. It spun around and zipped back to hover over me again, obscuring the view of my strange leg. It moved in such an impossible way, as if completely weightless, like a ghost. Just then, a piercing, white, hot pain shot up my leg. My muscles seized up, turning to stone, as pain flooded and swelled into every fiber of tissue. Through the pain, I moved my head to get a better look. Two of its arachnid appendages were sliding my shin bone back into my body through a small opening below my knee. I cried out, wailed even, before fainting. The machine didn't even need to sedate me. Waking once more, back in my bed, I pulled up my linen trouser leg. Nothing. I sigh, adjusting myself back into bed, the image of the machine still bright in my mind. I felt almost embarrassed to have dreamt something so unrealistic, so childish. It was made of a black metal, the deepest black, whilst at the same time being as shiny as a serving spoon. Its body was spherical, with a number of appendages hanging down below it, like the legs of a bug or an arachnid. At the end of each of them, some kind of tool or device, blades, rods, syringes. And when it had turned to me, I had seen that a part of its spherical surface was in fact a tinted glass, a glint of light revealing a large lens behind it. And the strangest thing, it glided around so quickly without making even the slightest sound. It was completely silent. I suppose my imagination couldn't stretch as far as imagining a sound for it. After a short while, an orderly entered the room. "From the doctor," he said, as he handed me one of their devices. It was square, about half the size of a piece of paper, and was transparent, but only from the side with the interface. On the screen was a short paragraph about euthanasia, with two options below it: accept, decline. I pressed decline, and felt the sensation of pressing a physical button, suspended in 3 dimensions Inside the device, the orderly, having waited patiently, took the device and turned to leave. As he was making his exit, he hesitated, pausing in his stride for a minute and beginning to turn before recommitting to his path. "Everything okay?" I asked. He paused again, taking his time to think before he turned. I'm sorry," he said, visibly nervous. He was small, childlike, no older than 20. "I've heard so much about you, and to see you here, I can't believe it. I studied about you." "You're really from the 2040s? I nodded, smiling like a wise old monk. "So, what was it like? The past? Was it like they say?" "Well, what do they say?" "They say it was good. A simple way of living. The birth of technology, the information era. I can't imagine what it was like." "Yeah, it was good. I miss it a lot. If only I knew what this world was like, I would have some point of reference to describe my own time to him." It sure didn't feel simple at the time, but maybe stuff got even more complicated since then. His eye twitched as I said this, an indecipherable emotion sweeping across his face, just like the doctor's had. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I guess." With that, he left the room without another word. I spent the remainder of the day thinking about the outside world. What could possibly be so overwhelming for me? Flying cars? A city in the sky? Or had they lied to keep me here and stop me from leaving early? It annoyed me that they hadn't even given me a clue. "I'll take a peek," I decided. "Tonight. I'll sneak out of the front door for a few moments, take in the sights of whatever is outside. At least then I'll have a taste, without actually being thrust out to navigate a new world on my own." Dr. Yadav said that they'd always look after me. Of course, I waited for hours, picturing all of the possibilities. I thought about the year 1700, compared it with the year 2000, the immense societal and technological shifts over the years. Could it really be the same degree of change? Life in 2000 was better than in 1700, I concluded. So, life now must be better than in my own time. In the dead of night, I left the room, moving carefully down the dim hallway. It was as featureless as my room. I didn't need to walk for long before I spotted a sign above a door. "Emergency exit." Before entering, I instinctively checked the hall. I looked right. I looked left. I froze, swung my head right again. There it was, gliding silently at the end of the hallway, that awful machine, at this distance, a marauding silhouette. I shot down the stairs like a bullet. As I moved, my hands fumbled across my abdomen, looking for a scar. How could they? I lamented. They're keeping me here for their experiments, to examine me, my bones. my flesh. I felt sick. They couldn't lie to me anymore. I'd outsmarted them. I'll leave and never come back, I told myself. Finally, I reached the bottom of the stairs and found a set of double doors. I listened out for the machine, knowing full well that if it were coming, I wouldn't hear it. With a hand on the push bar, I considered for a moment my predicament. No evidence that my nightmares were real. Could my mind, destroyed by disease and time travel, have betrayed me? A flying, silent machine? I supposed that I would find out soon enough. I was outside for 17 minutes. That's all it took before I was back at the door, banging on the cold iron until my fists were bloody. Let me in! God damn you all to hell, you bastards! I want euthanasia. I want it now. I want it now. Let me back in. You made me a...